This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stockbox interview.
Yes, I can see that's recording.
Okay, and it's just you and George that are on the mic. I'm just double checking everybody else in case there's anyone. David G, I'll just unmute you just now. Sorry, unmute me even. I'm just going through all the participants, make sure there's nobody else. Perfect, it just looks like two of you now. Right, I'll mute as well.
Super, okay.
Cheers, bye.
Okay, we'll give it another minute so we're starting bang on the time just to let any other people come in, and then we'll start. Okay, it's 2:00. Hello, welcome everybody to this live Q&A on Telegram with George Roach, the CEO of Premier African Minerals. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Mark Fairbairn. I work for Stockbox, and I'll just be hosting the session today, just fielding your questions to George. We've already had about 11 questions put forward, so thank you all very much for sending them in to begin with. We will start with those questions first, and then the Telegram admin will open the floor to everyone here to ask further questions by either typing in the group and we'll pick them up, or let us know if you'd like to speak by using the hands up, and then we'll unmute you so you can ask your question directly. Don't hold back. This is your opportunity. George is here. He's given his time for us. He has just about an hour, so I'm sure we will fill that hour completely. There are 124 or so people listening at the moment, and I know Prem is a very popular stock, so would like to crack on as soon as possible. I will just make a very quick plug to a podcast that we did the other day that's gone out just about half an hour ago with Neil Herbert of Atlantic Lithium. And for those that don't know, Neil was the chairman of Premier African Minerals for about 3 years. And of course, I couldn't let that podcast go out without asking him a little bit about his time at Prem. So that has gone out on all the Stockbox and Market Musings podcast channels. So if you want to listen, you'll have to wait until the end for the chat on Prem, but it's worth the wait for sure. Okay, well, George, thank you very much for joining us today. Of course, we understand you will be bound by the rules of the London Stock Exchange on the questions, but you will do your best to answer. So thank you very much for joining us live. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, Mark. And so, excuse me, good to be talking to you guys. Thank you.
Yes, excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to this. So let's get straight on with the questions then, because there are quite a few. So the first one that I have been sent is, where is the resource upgrade statement? That's also abbreviated to the RUS, as I've noticed recently. And what is causing the delay?
Well, I think there are a couple of things to kind of put right there. First of all, I'm not particularly focused on trying to get out a resource upgrade statement at the moment. I'm far more focused on getting a pilot plant built, firstly. And secondly, in terms of the resources, I am equally focused on establishing how much of this resource is actually spodumene as opposed to various other lithium minerals. And I'd like to just take a moment, if I may, Mark, and just dwell on this, because the issue of coming out with a resource statement that says X million tons at X% doesn't tell the whole story about a resource in the pegmatite space at this time. The lithium itself is contained across a number of different minerals. The target one that we all speak about is spodumene. Then there's petalite, there's lepidolite, there's holmquistite, there are a whole string of these things. And some of these are completely unrecoverable. Some of them are of very little commercial value. Some of them are of greater commercial value than others. And I think that the best way of dealing with this is to look at the three principal ones that most of us would be familiar with, and that's spodumene, petalite, and lepidolite. Now, in Zimbabwe, most pegmatites, it seems, have evolved from or emerged originally as predominantly petalite. Then over millions and millions of years, various changes have gone about. And in some instances, and Zulu is very fortunate to be one of these, part of the pegmatite has converted from a dominant petalite situation into an almost complete spodumene situation. And what happens in this process is that the petalite will slowly break down, evolve into a spodumene and a quartz. And this is what we're seeing in our biggest single pegmatite that we will be targeting at Zulu. So what I'm focused on when it comes to the resources is to be able to demonstrate how many hundreds of thousands or millions of tons of actual spodumene we are sitting with contained within the ore body. Now, that's a much more meaningful number to me. And it's meaningful partly in that that is representative of the highest value way of looking at a resource statement, as opposed to a traditional way with many of the reports that we see, which are X tons and X percent. So I'm trying to focus on how much of the high value mineral we have, as opposed to any other minerals that may be there. And there are other minerals that are there. Fortunately, there's not too much petalite, if any, in our main ore body. We've got some subsidiary pegmatites, bearing in mind that the pegmatite ore body is multiple steeply dipping ore bodies within a zone. Some of the outerlying ones, what we call our river pegmatites, they have more petalite. There are one or two others that may have more lepidolite, but the dominant situation is spodumene. So on the resource issues, I am focused at the moment on establishing a realistic quantity of spodumene that is immediately available to the pilot plant to enable this pilot plant to operate and to operate profitably and to operate profitably quickly. So that's my focus. I might add as well that there are still the better part of 2,000 outstanding assays. And it's not that we aren't getting assays in, it's that we are generating more and more and more samples that need to be analyzed from core, which is still in the process of being split. I think it's worth noting again that the better part of 37,000 meters drilling has been done. This is going to give us a very, very well-defined and efficient ore body to mine associated directly with the pilot plant. So in summary, my focus is primarily on getting the pilot plant into production profitably as quickly as possible and establishing that there is a significant quantity of spodumene as opposed to an overall tonnage and overall percentage of lithium oxide equivalents and so on. But spodumene, that's what we're targeting. That doesn't mean to say that we are not aware of the tantalum byproducts. Doesn't mean to say we are not aware of the fact that there is likely to be some lepidolite in byproduct as well. Those will be recovered, but our main concern is to attack the spodumene resource that is there and deliver as much as possible. So it's not that there won't be overall resource statement updates. There will be from time to time, but it really isn't my principal focus at the moment.
Okay. Well, I'm sure people will be happy to know that the principal focus is, of course, getting that pilot plant built and online for the hot start date. I think you referred to at the end of Q1, around sort of March time. I mean, people, should they not be getting as hung up? Do you not think on the resource upgrade statement? Do you think it's not perhaps as if it's not your high priority, should shareholders not be as concerned with it?
I personally, I feel that and I'm beginning to raise this. These are questions I'm beginning to raise, and a lot of this is personal views, that I'm beginning to wonder whether the traditional way of reporting resources when it comes to an LCT pegmatite and this kind of mining are actually that applicable, and whether in fact in some ways they can't even be a little deceptive. And I mean, a good example of this is that often in these pegmatite ore bodies, you have a leaching out of some lithium into host rock, and you end up with a mineral which, as I recall, is called holmquistite. Now, there is no way that I know of, and I don't think anybody else knows of, a way at this moment of recovering lithium from it. But it neighbors on the border of an ore body. Now, you can drill right through, you can take a whole series of assays, and you can end up with some of your Li2O equivalent sitting in a mineral that is either unrecoverable and or is a mineral that from an economic sense is not the best one to target. And this kind of thing is not always spelt out clearly in a resource statement. So that is why I'm really focused on trying to say, because of the XRD, because of all the different work, the analysis, the additional work we've done at Zulu, how much of this is truly spodumene that our pilot plant, which uses sensor-based sorting, is able to isolate out of the overall pegmatite and present to the flotation circuit. That to me is what's going to determine how much money this pilot plant should and or could be making.
Okay, excellent. Well, talking about the pilot plant, then, are the company still on target to start producing by the end of Q1 2023? And where are we at currently? Again, I'd like to get this from you. Paint the picture of what's on the ground.
Well, a huge amount of work. That's the first thing. Quite a bit of rain. We're learning how to throw concrete plinths and so on in the rain as well. We've got good covers for that. We've got assembly teams on site. We've had the first dozen or so truckloads of components delivered. There is already assembly of some of the crushing circuit components, which are already in situ and assembled. We're loading and delivering to site as fast as we can from a plant perspective. There are lots of challenges along the way, and none of these challenges at the moment are saying to us we won't produce in Q1. But to give you an idea of the diversity of challenge, they range from, because of the very poor electricity supply in South Africa at present and the so-called load shedding, they range from the fact that galvanizing contractors aren't getting enough uptime to galvanize everything fast enough. So you kind of sit and look at this and say, well, the alternative is maybe we just got to paint it. Through to some of the more complex situations. And I think we'll all recall, going back a couple of months ago, there were some port strikes, and the state port authority in South Africa called force majeure on its ports. Well, one or two of our overseas suppliers held back on shipment, but the difference to us at this stage, and a good example of this, is the major crushing components which are being shipped out of the UK. And that was held for a month, but it now has an anticipated arrival date of the end of January, which is fine. It's an relatively easy thing to get in sight and going. there were one or two other instances such as this. So instead of having everything for the plant on site and there at the end of December, some of these items will be there at the end of January. But they're not necessarily anticipated to cause a delay in the production side. If that were the case, I would have to announce it. And I've made no such announcement at this stage.
Okay, so a few small minor things which are to be expected really, but nothing at the moment that you can see to change that the hot start date.
That's absolutely correct, Mark.
Okay, excellent. Okay, well, the next question I have then, again on the pilot plant, is the pilot plant likely to produce more than what was originally estimated for the off-taker Shareholder? And if so, is Prem allowed to sell at spot auction price?
Let me deal with the last part of that question first that relates to spot auction price. The answer to that one is that we probably wouldn't look at that, even if we could, in the initial stages. I don't know whether the infrastructure and various other things exist in the Southern African region as exists out of Australia. Okay. So I don't know that we'd necessarily be able to go there. But having said that, it hasn't necessarily been the most pressing concern I have. My concern is making this thing work within time frame. So going back to the first part of that question, it's a very difficult one to answer. The plant manufacturers and designers, their expectation is that it could well. I can't reach any conclusions in relation to that yet. It is a pilot plant facility, and it must get in and it must work first. So I think quietly positive on that front is the best that I can say, but I cannot be definitive on that.
Okay, well, let's get the pilot plant up and running and make sure it all works, and then we can look to the additional bonus perhaps of additional production. So the next question I have: how many assays are completed and test results outstanding? Specifically, A, for the pilot plant, B, to complete the DFS, and C, for the wider EPO area.
Mark, I must be honest with you. I did not check with my geos before this meeting to get a number on that one. I have just come out of an earlier meeting today where we were discussing a pit design and pit optimization and so on. And during the course of that meeting, our senior geological consultant mentioned to me that he still has the better part of 2,000 outstanding. So I can say that is the case, and I can say that all of those will relate to the principal ore body that we are looking to mine with the pilot plant or in conjunction with the pilot plant. So unfortunately, I can't give you anything more than that for the moment. I will look to get a comprehensive update out when next we do an RNS on that.
Okay, that would be good. Next time we speak, we can maybe get some more specific numbers relating to that question. Okay, the next question I have: are there any plans to explore the gold, copper, and other minerals within the EPO license in 2023? And are you looking for joint venture opportunities?
In terms of will we expand the exploration to cover the entire EPO, the answer to that is yes. And during the next 12 months, that's going to get a huge amount more focus than has been the case. In terms of the gold opportunities that exist, and they do, there's no question about that. There hasn't been anything really more than artisanal workings at this time. And I can only say that during the course of the next 12 months, if there is something significantly better, and I hope there is, we will pick it up. But at this moment, no. In terms of copper contained within the within that area, not really. I don't, when you drill a pegmatite and you look at the complete spectrum of assays, you see a bit of everything. I mean, there's a bit of magnesium, there's a bit of beryllium, there's a bit of everything. There's it goes on and on and on. There's rubidium, there's whatever, tin, there's just about anything and everything that sits there, but it's really in relatively small and very, very small and not necessarily economic quantities. The byproducts that are economic, particularly, are tantalum. And I mean, that's where the pegmatite gets its name from, the LCT, lithium and whatever, lithium, cesium, tantalum pegmatites. That's where they come from. And many of these pegmatites were known originally not for the potential lithium content or spodumene or petalite content, but for the tantalum and tin and so on. So yeah, those there will be, but in significant quantities, I haven't seen any really good copper assays coming out of the area at this stage.
Okay, but potential there may be for some gold in the future, which is always a nice little bonus, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. No, Mark, let me not downplay the gold opportunity in this thing. I mean, the Fort Rixson Greenstone Belt is fairly well known for gold. And Zimbabwe has a lot of gold. It's just that I haven't done, Prem team hasn't done enough work to reach any definitive conclusion in regard to that gold yet. That hasn't been done yet.
Okay, excellent. Now, can you let us know an idea, perhaps, of what the exploration target is for Zulu, including the EPO license area?
Now, again, I noted this question. I did note. I have to tell you, I'm very reluctant to be drawn on this. Wolfgang Hempel, our previous technical director, was, and he set out various numbers that are all out in the public domain. Our work at this time has been focused on close-spaced definition and understanding of what really is a complex ore body. So I wanted to be in a position when we start mining to be able to mine in a very much targeted and extremely efficient manner. I want to be able to see as little waste mining as possible. I want to see our strip ratios kept as low as possible. And all of that goes to the amount of close space definition drilling and understanding of the ore body that has taken place. So I really have not been focused on trying to develop huge exploration targets. Suffice it to say that the deposit remains open in a northerly direction, in a southerly direction, and at depth. And we are now seeing that there are some additional parallel pegmatites that had not previously been included in any of our resource work. So with that one there, I'm not in a position to give an estimate on that at the moment.
Okay, no problem. I mean, I could try and push you a bit more and say what would be your fantasy, your dream number, but maybe you won't go there with me either.
Oh, I don't know. I can have all sorts of dreams, I mean, how about 1 billion tons at 4%?
That'd be nice.
I mean, that's the kind of dream, but that's a complete impossibility. So I
Sure.
can't, really, I cannot give you any, and I'm very reluctant anyway to do that.
Okay.
As I say, I'll come back on the same theme that I've been on all the time, that I want to have a very efficient mining operation supportive of the pilot plant and bring that to producing and making money as fast as we humanly can do.
Okay. Excellent. Yes. The key thing I took away from that was targeted and efficient. It's clear you're focused here on getting that pilot plant running is in a very targeted and efficient manner. And I think that's very important. Let's not lose sight of the big goal here. The pipe dreams can come a bit later. Okay. So the next question I have, there's a few points to this one. What's next for Zulu after the pilot plant goes live? Are there plans to expand or add more open pit mines, build a second pilot plant, process the petalite and tantalum stockpiles, sell the lepidolite and rubidium, build a full-size mine and processing plant, or finish the DFS? So a lot of things there. This person has a very nice wish list of things they'd like to see happen. What are any of those on your wish list, looking beyond the pilot plant, George, which I know is not really on the horizon right now?
It isn't really, but you know, Mark, there are a couple of things that are happening around this that are quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And the one is that there seems to be a recognition coming out of, and let me just in brackets say the West. I think we know more or less what I'm referring to there, to the effect that there's a need for other countries, and I'm talking about Europe, UK, North Americas, and so on, who want to get access to the raw materials that can be used to further this lithium, the lithium drives at the moment. And as we sit at the moment, these guys are generally a little bit behind the eight ball, as it were. They got a way to go, because a huge amount of investment has been made by others who have recognized earlier and have been prepared to come in a higher risk time. And a lot of this has been tied up. So if you want to secure some of Prem's spodumene going into the future, then in my opinion, this is my personal opinion at the moment, the way you're going to have to go about this is you're going to have to reach some kind of an agreement at some time that says we can start adding more value in country. And I think that that's going to be a mounting call coming from many of the African countries over the next period of time. And I think the days when one can expect to walk into a country and buy the lowest value-added raw material, which is a concentrate, ship out the concentrate and go and do all the value adding in your own country or somewhere else, I think those days are slowly coming to an end. So in terms of going back to your question, in terms of what kind of thing comes next, okay, I think that the sort of thing that comes next is somebody needs to come and have a negotiation with us about trying to secure the balance of our spodumene takeoff agreement once we're finished sorting out the prepayment on the pilot plant. And the only way you're going to get that is if you're going to start getting involved in funding perhaps a sulfate plant or something like that in country and somewhere close to the mine. So I think that that's a positive opportunity that Prem is conscious of, and it goes to one of the reasons why we retained the rights to the extent we did. Added to that is the fact that I do think that the other components of the pilot plant that are not there yet, in other words, that area that will deal with tantalum, that area that will deal with any of the other metals if they are there in adequate quantities, and that area that may deal with lepidolite to the extent that it's there, those areas need to be looked at, and those will be extensions to the capabilities of the pilot plant. In addition to that, we are also stockpiling a -8 mil fraction, in other words, the much smaller fine-sized fraction, and that is not being processed immediately. That is going to require some upgraded milling. We would look to that. That's material that would already have been mined, whilst it won't have been upgraded to the same extent through sorters. It's been mined, it's of a small-sized fraction, and will be very easy to crush and then pass through flotation circuits. So that sits as an example. And then the other is simple extensions to the pilot plant to increase the overall production. And that goes back to my first discussion related to resources. where I'm concerned about establishing how much spodumene we have, because how much spodumene we have will direct how much bigger we can make this pilot plant at its existing location, which is going to be the quickest way of increasing production levels. So I hope that gives you some flavor and color on that.
Well, it certainly sounds like you want to continue on pretty strongly here with when you've got momentum going. Keep pushing with that momentum. You talk about adding more value in country. So clearly, the plan really looking beyond getting the pilot plant up and running is to build operations and continue to build on the output.
Yeah, Mark, absolutely. I mean, that is exactly where this thing goes. Okay. I just don't want to start putting the cart before the horse, as it were.
Of course.
It's a pilot plant and it must produce, and and that's the most important thing. The rest of it will flow, and I believe it will flow strongly and quickly.
Okay, good to hear. Okay, could you tell us what further work besides drilling, testing and issue of assays are needed to complete the DFS? In terms of a percentage, where are we at with the DFS? Can you give a hint?
All right. So to go back to the DFS, and remember, I've effectively put the DFS on hold, but part of the DFS, and this is a very significant part of the DFS, is that when the pilot plant operates, it will have proved the process that is being recommended and suggested in the DFS. It will define the recoveries. It'll define efficiencies. It will define costs. Now, those are incredibly important components within a DFS. And under normal circumstances, and these are abnormal circumstances we have with the spodumene prices, under normal circumstances, we wouldn't be having this conversation about a pilot plant. We'd be having a conversation about completing a DFS and then going out and looking for huge amounts of money to do all sorts of traditional things. Whereas what's happened with this is because of spodumene pricing, because of demand, this price differential between the likely cost and the selling price of spodumene is the biggest risk alleviator that I've seen around in a long time. And that allows us to take the view that we have. So when we do get back to a much larger DFS, a huge amount of the processing work, the mining efficiency work, the recovery work, all of those aspects of the DFS, those will have been done, and they will have been done for us in a way which is far more definitive than the level to which a normal DFS would be completed. So I hope that helps with that.
Yes, it does. Thank you, George. Okay, so the next question I have, it's been communicated in the past during a Stockbox interview, and I do think I remember this one, that the mining minister or the Zimbabwe president would give Prem a mining license for Zulu, including the EPO area, on the day that the pilot plant is hot commissioned. Is this still the case? And how are we progressing on the environmental, water, road and export permits?
Okay, so let's just go back to what the Minister of Mines, the discussion was with the Minister of Mines and myself. All right, and effectively what was said was that we would be given I'm just trying to remember the exact terms of it. It's not a mining lease. It's a I can't remember, it's a special grant or whatever it might be, but it covers an area, and within that enlarged area one has mining rights, as opposed to going through the historic claims basis for securing title. Remember that we have title in two ways at Zulu. We have original claim certificates, which are ours virtually in perpetuity, provided we do work and or pay money. Well, we're really well and truly doing work at the moment on those. And then we have a surrounding area, which is an exclusive prospecting order. Now, what was said was that the minister would he would be very, very happy, and he would arrange to be accompanied, and that when we went into production, he would give us this special, I'm just trying to, still can't remember the terminology used, but effectively it's an enlarged area in which we can conduct exclusive mining operations. So going back to the other part of that question, there is no implication that says we can't mine as we are. We need to comply with certain legislation. And legislations we comply with are those related to the Environmental Agency, EMA, things like being registered to have a magazine on site to use explosives, having environmental approval to build the dam that is being built to give us the access to water that we need, approval with Rural District Council to relocate certain parties that may be living within a blast radius. There are a plethora of procedural issues that one goes through. But I want to emphasize that these are really procedural situations that one needs to deal with. And we do. We have a team that does nothing other than deal with those aspects of this development.
Okay, excellent. Good. It's good to hear all that is in hand. Would be very good to get the Minister of Mines over on site, wouldn't it? That would be a nice thing to have, a nice photo op for the company for sure. Anyway,
I'm going to fetch him when we start work.
You're going to go and fetch him. Excellent. Good.
Yeah.
So I have a couple more questions that were pre-submitted. So the first one I have, what is the expected running costs for the pilot plant when in full operation? And do you anticipate this coming down when the running of the plant is fully optimized?
Okay, the second part of the question is easy to answer, and that's yes. The first part of the question is not so easy to answer. And this goes back to the issue of a definitive feasibility study up front, because the DFS would have determined this to within a 10 to 15% error rating one way or another. So I'm reluctant to be drawn on that. Let me say that the longer term target is to pull this cost down in line with some of the other significant producers, and I would like to see that the overall FOB cost starts getting down somewhere around about the $700 to $800 a ton. That's what I'd like to see. That's not where it's going to be to start.
Okay.
I believe it's going to be significantly higher, but it is going to come down as we optimize, as we sort out our regimes, deal with initial mining, etc., etc. You know, a very good example of this is, whilst I can talk about a very low strip ratio, you still got to get rid of all the vegetation sitting on top of an outcrop. You've got to get rid of all the topsoil, all the loose rock around it. You've got to do a huge amount of preparation for that. Now, all of that goes to initial OPEX. So whilst the strip ratio might be quite low, the cost of everything else that you're doing, all the access roads, all of this that's got to be built is fairly high. So it's logical that the cost will come down as time goes by.
Excellent. Okay. Well, the last question that was pre-submitted here covers some of the other projects within Prem's portfolio, and then we can see if anyone wants to type a question away, or indeed put your hand up, and we will unmute you so you can actually ask that question directly to George. But before we get to that, the last one that was pre-submitted, can you give an update on RHA tungsten, Circum Minerals potash, Ochazondu manganese, and the JV with Li3 for the lithium gold assets at the Multare Greenstone Belt?
Okay, so let's start off with RHA.
Mm-hmm.
With RHA, there isn't much movement at the moment, other than to say that a process has been recommended to us that would allow us to at least get on an equitable shareholding basis, and would give us special protection for the monies historically invested to ensure that there is adequate recovery. Now, that that's verbally where I believe we are. The at issue is that to bring RHA back into production, we need to complete the electrification. And we have a little bit of other work, and I think the quantums of this I've put in the public domain before. And it's a case of, do we take funds ourselves from our own resources now that are available but are directed at Zulu, and go and pay for this and bring this thing back to life immediately, or exercise a little bit more patience, wait for the pilot plant to go into production, and or seek some further assistance from the government and or from another takeoff partner. So I think that the summation of what I'm saying is that I see a future for RHA, and I see a decent future for RHA, but it's not getting my principal focus right now. And similarly on others, the situation with Circum, for example, there's been a lot of recent discussion and negotiation on Circum. The situation in Ethiopia is settling. There is peace at the moment, and a peace process that is being implemented. There is a laying down of arms amongst certain sectors. So I'm confident, I think, that the environment within which we're operating is going to be fine and conducive to development again. I'm now speaking very, very much personally. I wish I had the resources to take over this whole project from all of those who are there and go and build it, because it deserves to be built. To me, it's a fantastic project. There's all sorts of discussion that continues all the time around it, but there really is nothing more to be said other than that.
Okay.
You asked me about Ochizondu. The situation Ochizondu hasn't changed. It requires a decision from Prem as to whether or not we're going to acquire the remaining 81%. I don't want to do so without getting a decent commitment, perhaps from our existing partner. And I'm talking about our 13% shareholder. There's been some preliminary discussion on that one. And I'll just have to see where that goes. So I haven't left it alone. But again, Ochizondu has not had the focus from me that it was getting previously, and that's only because of the pilot plant work that's going on.
Okay, excellent. Was there one more, LI, or the joint venture?
Oh, sorry, yes, I beg your pardon. Yes, the joint venture. I mean, look, that one's going very nicely. I mean, I find it quite intriguing that I believe it's Sabi Star is another Chinese-backed company in Zimbabwe, that they are busy building a concentrate plant within a couple of 100 meters of our claims boundaries. So it says to me that the mineralization is good. Our initial work is indicating that it's good. The first of our drill rigs is on site at the moment. I've got no reports coming back from it yet. We are conducting MMI work over extended areas where we've got other claims that had not necessarily had work for lithium minerals done before. So all of that is in process as well. So I'm quite pleased about what's happening on that one there, okay. And I think there's a very nice future for that.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much, George. That covers all those 11 questions that were sent in. So if anyone wants to ask any further questions, we still have probably 20 minutes or so of George's time. I do see someone has put their hand up there. That's Gavin. Before I come to you, Gavin, I see someone put a question in the group. Can we ask George, has anyone put a buyout offer on the table? If yes, will he be selling it? And then I will come to you, Gavin. I know it's a tricky question, this one, George.
Let me just say, and I've said this, and I've said it, and I've said it repeatedly. We're a public company. if somebody comes to us with an unsolicited offer that we believe should get consideration, we would have to advise everybody immediately. We do not have, and I'm not looking, to be frank, my focus at the moment isn't on trying to find somebody to come and make some big buyout offer. I have a funny feeling that the further we go down this road and the closer we get to production, the more likely we are to have, I don't know, to have some kind of further or additional approaches. I think that's likely, and I think that could be expected, but there is no specific offer on the table at the moment.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, well, Gavin PT, you should be able to speak. You might have to unmute your microphone, but you should be. There you go. Please ask your question.
Okay, so thank you for taking my question, George. And it sounds like there's a lot of exciting things going on. Basically, my questions are related about the news, how you let it out. I mean, there hasn't been an RNS for a long time. And I thought there'd be a lot of things that you could update the market with. And then the photos on Twitter that we get, I'm just wondering how old are they before they are published? And I had one more, but I can't think of it right now. If it comes to me, I'll come back. But those two questions first of all.
Let me deal with the photos on Twitter, because Vilna Lamb, who's responsible for looking at it, is actually sitting in my office at the moment. So Vilna, have you got current photos there?
Our photos normally are about a week or so after being taken, put out on Twitter. It does go through various channels for authorization in order to be put out.
Did you hear that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I think there are a few more. I've asked for some photos recently of progress on the main dam that is being built. I think I saw a photo just yesterday or this morning of current assembly going on site. Look, I think Vilna makes a good point that one needs to look at these things first and just go through a process. But understand, and we must get as many of them out as quickly as possible.
Okay, there was a second part, wasn't there, Gavin? Was it about the news? The news, how often you get the news out?
Oh, yes. Yeah, let me... Yeah, sorry. I know there's the one I'm just being shown, the one on Twitter at the moment. Just to show me a bigger version of that.
It's XRTs being constructed.
Oh, yes. Okay. Turn. Why doesn't it turn?
Because I don't have an up and down sensor.
Okay. All right. That's the first part of the plant going up there. That's a pretty recent photo then. That crane, I think that crane that's being used only arrived on site a couple of days ago. So that's pretty recent. All right, just going back to the news side of this. I understand that, and I apologize that there hasn't been an adequate flow, particularly on updating of the mineralization, as we discussed earlier, but I've discussed that before, and some more assay results as they come in. And I believe there is an RNS that is very close. So I will chase up on that, and I will look to provide further update within it. And I will look to get that date now.
Okay, that's fine. I just remembered, it just came into my head. I remember you saying something about getting a cameraman in one of your interviews. I'm just wondering if you had any more thoughts about maybe having a cameraman go around the site and publishing that.
Yeah, there's a lot of video footage that's been taken of various parts of this work that's being done. There's been additional. I'm not quite sure how we're going to go about releasing all of this at the end of the day, but I'm quite keen to put together this process almost into some form of documentary type thing over a period. So in the background, I do have somebody doing a lot of work in that area in conjunction with Stark Resources as well. So we're conscious of it. I know I haven't got anything out yet, but that needs a lot of compiling, a lot of editing. There's a lot of work associated with that. So there is additional in the background that is being put together, yes.
Thank you for taking my questions, George.
That's a pleasure, and thank you for the questions.
No, thank you, Gavin, very much. Do we have any other questions there? I think there was a couple. Someone's typed something. I can see someone just sent me. Could we publicise some of the things we are doing to benefit the locals more?
Yes, the answer to that is yes. But I also have to say that that's very much a work in progress. And part of the reason for it being a work in progress is the speed with which we're going about developing this. And to give you a very good example of it, the dam that is being built will have surplus capacity for irrigation. Now, I'm in a couple of discussions at the moment separately as to how we can benefit local communities relative to it. The suggestion has been made that we should start putting up some additional pivot-based irrigation systems. I'm also looking to see if I can't find a competent, and this doesn't mean to say some are not competent, but I'm looking to find a competent NGO with agricultural experience to come work with us, because we're providing a lot and can continue to provide a lot. But I'd like to see somebody who can also access perhaps I don't know, perhaps some USAID money or something like that to complement and to help with the ongoing administration and development of some of these things. So the answer to that is yes, and I think we must, but it really is a work in progress at the moment. There's one or two things that we have done that, and just with Vilna in my office, for example, we've upgraded the local community water access. We've redone a whole lot of their boreholes, all the road works that have been done in the area, and so on. There's a huge amount of this that is just done in the normal course of business, because that's how we believe we should be. But yes, we'll focus on publishing more of this. The other point to make is that almost to a man, labor that we are using comes from the local communities. We really are pedantic about that. We also have a principle philosophy in constructing these mines that we don't build mine compounds. I don't want people living away from their families. So I'd rather buy a bus and transport people back to their home every day than have people away from parents and living in a mine compound. So there's a lot of that kind of thing that we just do.
Okay, we just do in the course of business. Okay, good. Well, thank you, George. I can see a couple of other questions have been typed. Any plans to get a second pilot plant next year, or to add modular parts to increase the capacity?
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to.
Good. Excellent. Okay, good. Well, that's a nice short answer. What else do we have? A question to George. I previously asked this on a Stockbox interview in August. Are you happy with the current share price? And do you believe that it's an accurate reflection of the current company value?
Mark, I don't know. I get asked on this kind of question all the time, and my answer to it has to be that I'm not an investment advisor, and I really, I've all my life studiously avoided recommending anything to do with my own or the share price of a company I've been involved in. Having said that, and putting on my shareholder hat, I think that I'd like to see it higher, and I think that the potential to go higher remains.
Okay.
So I think it's a bit of a de-risking phase that we're going through at the moment. I think that I've discussed the risks associated with going into early production before we finish the DFS and things like that. I think the closer we get to it, the more or the less of a concern some of these things are. So as I say, with my shareholder hat on, I'd like to see it much higher.
Excellent. Okay, good. Well, I think that's a fair enough answer there. Have we received the second payment from the Chinese?
I've received multiple payments from them.
Okay.
There's a schedule of these payments as they come through. I mean,
okay.
I haven't got the schedule in front of me, but
they're all coming through on time.
Oh, absolutely. No, there's absolutely no question. No problem. No question. I can only say, I can only be complimentary towards our partners at this stage. They have been an exceptionally good partner. They are helpful. They respond to whatever we need. I can't think of any downside at the moment to them.
Okay, so excellent. Okay, has the team started mining yet to build up a stockpile for the ore feed?
No.
No. Okay, that's a good short answer. I do see some more people with their hands up. I'll just go through a couple more that came in on the chat here. Any thoughts or comments with the presidential elections next year?
No.
No. Okay. Fair enough. Are you thinking in 2024 a second plant will bring production up to 100,000 tons spodumene per year?
I'd love to see that happen.
Excellent.
It's something we'll just have to address during the course of the year. I'd love to see it increase. I'd love to see us extend the pilot plant. I think the success of the pilot plant is going to breed all sorts of opportunities.
Okay, good. Right, I will come to Lucius first after I've asked this question. Shouldn't the Li3 joint venture be in an RNS, rig on site, etc.? If it's going well, why haven't we had any info?
You're right, and I, as recently as this weekend, was in a conversation with the other Li3 people on this, and I believe that we can expect some updates on it pretty soon.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so Lucius, you should be able to speak. You might have to unmute, but please go ahead and ask your question to George.
Yeah, hi, George. Good afternoon, and thanks for taking my question. Just a very quick one. I'm reversing the statement you said about the West being behind the curve, and I think that's well documented in the press here. How about our partners, the Chinese, being ahead of the curve? And my thoughts are, if the West are looking to gain a foothold in the lithium, would it not be a case that perhaps there's the potential increase with our partners currently?
I think you're probably right. That potential is very definitely there. And I don't think that that is something that is far from my mind at any point in time. So it's, the requirement for spodumene, for decent spodumene concentrate, is so great at the moment that look, I think this. There's the ability to secure further funding to enhance the size and output of this pilot plant or our operations, I think is available probably from multiple sources if we go chase it. Does that help?
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Lucius. Thank you very much for that question. There was someone else with their hand up, but I don't see it now. So if you do want to put your hand up again, then please do. There is a couple more questions that have been typed. When will you likely be able to give guidance on cash flow projections for the pilot plant in the absence of the Rus?
Okay, so if I go back to a lot of what I said earlier, I'm focused, really strongly focused at the moment on trying to establish the tonnage, or as accurate as possible, the tonnage of actual spodumene in the immediate area vicinity of the pilot plant that we're going to mine. I don't have that number at the moment. I have estimates, but I don't have anything that I can get a competent person to sign off on just yet. But there's a huge amount of work being done in that area. A lot of it is XRD work that will determine the actual specific minerals. And if I say that we've probably had more than 500 XRD analyses so far, that's probably more or less where we are. We don't have all the results of that yet. I mean, that's the biggest issue that I need to get my head around. Once that's done, I think we'll be able to give an indication with some parameters. How soon? I'd love to say it would be a Christmas present, but I don't. I can't tie myself down to a date on that one. I really can't.
Okay. Well, I can see a couple more questions in the chat here. Have Shuzhoi seen Katate, and do they have any interest in the resource?
The answer is no, they haven't.
Mm-hmm.
And is there an interest in Kateti? That's Kateti. We're
Kateti,
referring to.
apologies.
Yeah, that's the rare earths at Kateti. No, they haven't. Is there an interest in it? Yes, there is. I have discussed it with Dr. Lou Wee, who's on our board, but I haven't had time to get him there just yet.
Okay.
Yeah, there's it's a very interesting deposit, that, and we need to get back on and do more work with that pretty quickly.
Okay. Well, I see one more question in the chat here. Again, if anyone wants to type something or put your hand up, please do. We are running out of time, but there's probably another 5 minutes or so. But this last question that I see: do we have an offtake agreement for the first production in March 2023? You do, don't you, with the current with Shuzhoi?
Oh no, we do, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, absolutely.
Yeah. What are the terms? Maybe just remind us of the terms, just in case.
The terms are a discount of 10% to the average price as reported by, I believe it's Fastnets.
Okay.
Yeah, reported by Fastnets over the preceding 30 days. And that's for so long as the prepayment has not been offset by product delivery.
Okay, thank you. One last point coming: is contract prices around $5,000 plus at comment? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, look, it probably is. There are various different pricing mechanisms floating around out there. I mean, some of them are what I've given you. Others relate to a percentage of lithium hydroxide pricing, etc., etc. There are a number of different concepts and ways of looking at this thing, but I think they all pretty well come down to the same kind of thing at the moment, which is of the order of $5,000 on contract.
On contract. Okay, excellent.
But, maybe a bit higher, but there or thereabouts.
Okay. Now, can we expect this year's AGM soon?
Yes, I believe that's being organised at the moment. I haven't got a date, but yes, the answer to that is yes, very much so.
Next question: where is the AGM likely to be held?
I have to say, almost certainly virtually.
Okay.
Yeah, it's difficult to with being a BVI registered company, and in particular that we're about to go into production. I wouldn't like to put us in a situation where we end up with some kind of unwanted tax domicile. So we need to be a little circumspect about exactly where. Okay.
Another little question came: when do you break up for Christmas, or do you not, George? Does the company continue working on through the holiday period?
Yeah, I haven't even bought a turkey yet. In fact, the other day at site, I said to the guys, "I'm coming to do the Christmas lunch. I'll buy the turkeys and do them at site."
Nice.
So the answer is hardly. The civils contractors will take a break from the 22nd of December. I mean, they've been hard at it for most of the year.
Okay.
The assembly teams are expecting to be back on site on the 26th of December. So there's hardly a break there. I mean, a lot of the guys have cancelled their Christmas leaves and all sorts of things for the sake of getting this thing done. So to the extent that there's a break, it's a very small one.
Okay. Well, do make sure you post a picture on site having the Christmas turkey with hats, etc. That would be nice to see.
I think I might just have to go and do that.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, George. So one last question I see. I know your diary, you're very busy. Someone's asking about the analyst report. I remember this was a question that came up in London, wasn't it, about getting almost like a one of those broker notes or analyst reports. Have you any idea when that can be drawn up?
I think also soon. I did meet when I was in London. I met with the analyst at that time, and he indicated that he's quite well advanced, but needs a bit more from me.
Okay. Well, good. It's good to hear that's on track, and hopefully you can give him what he needs in the not too distant future, and that report can come out to the market. Well, thank you very much, George, for your time today. It's been a very good session. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. There's been lots of people listening, and thank you, everyone, for your questions. And it's been a very good discussion, very well managed and very civilized. So thank you all very much for that. So I think we're all good. People are now saying Merry Christmas, George. Wishing you Happy Christmas. Of course, we are only about a week away from Christmas. So, of course, yeah, thank you, and Happy Christmas to everyone in this group as well. And look forward to following the developments as you go towards that hot commission date in Q1. It's going to be an active start to the new year, I think, George. Any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, look, I think I can only sort of second that and to take the opportunity of saying to everybody on this call and all our shareholders, whoever may hear it, that all the support is welcome. I welcome whatever comments there may be, whether it's criticism, whether it's suggestion, whether it's whatever it may be. I welcome it. I'm pleased to know that there is this much. We're incredibly busy. We're not going to let up. And I'm personally hoping for a really good new year. So that's really what we're all about at the moment.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much again, George, CEO of Premier African Minerals, and thank you everyone for joining. I hope you've all found it very useful. And until next time, wish everyone a very happy Christmas. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.
Thanks. Thank you. Goodbye.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.